Hello everyone, TeamAmerica here, and today is my Deathknight Arena review, where I'm going to be reviewing all 68 Deathknight cards that are going to be coming live with March of the Lich King, and how I think the cards will perform in Arena. Um, the first thing I want to discuss is how the rune system will work when drafting, because a lot of people get confused about it. So when building a deck for Death Knight, you have access to three different runes. You have blood runes, frost runes, and unholy runes. Blood is red, frost is blue, unholy is green. So, when you're drafting, I'll just give some examples to describe how it works. So, this card, Plagued Grain, has three unholy runes that you need to have it in your deck. So, before you draft any cards, you can draft any card, and any card can get offered. But if you take Plague Grain, it has three unholy runes. So you will be locked out from any Blood Rune cards or any Frost Rune cards. You can only get offered cards that either have one, two, or three unholy runes. Whereas, let's say you take Horn of Winter. This is two Frost runes. So you can still get offered a blood cards with one blood rune or cards with one unholy rune. But as soon as you take one of those, you're locked out from the last color, essentially. And so in that situation, you'll be able to draft cards with either one or two frost runes on them, or cards with the last color you took. So it's a little confusing, but once you get it, it's extremely simple. And it'll actually give you access to a lot of information in the games on what cards your opponent will have had the chance to draft. So the first card is Horn of Winter. It's a 0 mana frost spell, which costs 2 frost runes and refresh 2 mana crystals. So this card is... It's... Refreshing is a lot weaker than giving you mana. So, and again, so if you're only watching this one and you didn't watch the review of all the cards, my scoring system is out of 5, and a Yeti or a Spider Tank is approximately 2 out of 5. And I actually think that this card is in the same vicinity of those. It does something, but it's not enough. It might actually be a 1.5. Like, it's not useless, but it's not gonna, because you can't break to the next level. It's just giving you, like, letting you play another 2-cost card on a turn typically. But one thing I did want to say about the different runes, all the runes do different things. I would say my generalization of them would be that blood runes, you have explosive plays where you can use all the corpses at once. I also need to describe corpses soon. And it's mostly removal and healing. Unholy runes is swarming the board and generating corpses. And frost runes are you generate value, and there's also removal involved, and freezing because they're frost spells. So not everything follows that, but that's a little bit of generality for it. Moving on to Body Bagger, this has no runes, so it can be in any Death Knight deck. It's a 1 mana 1/3 Battlecry, gain a corpse. So I will describe what corpses are real quick. What does it? So Death Knights, specifically only Death Knights, gain a corpse when one of their friendly minion dies, unless it specifically says that they don't gain a corpse, which some of the minions do. But any minion other than ones that you generate, specific ones that you generate, will generate a corpse when they die. That you can spend later using your cards, and or you can generate them through the cards themselves. Like this one, it generates a corpse, and then when it'll die, you'll get another corpse. So this card essentially gives you +2 corpses. So it's vanilla stats, but I actually think playing it on one and getting the corpse is really valuable because there is a decent amount of 2-cost cards that benefit from you having a corpse, and it'll be this is one of the only ways that you can get that corpse on turn 2 on curve. So I actually think this is a 2.5, when a 1-mana 1/3 would be a 2 out of 5. I think people actually don't respect how valuable it is getting that corpse on turn 1. So, but I think it'll actually be pretty valuable. Bonebreaker, 1-mana 1 frost rune, a 2/2 weapon. After your hero attacks a minion, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So I can't even think of what the card was, but there was a 1-mana 2/2 paladin card that it was battle cry, deal 5 damage to yourself. So this is way better. A 1-mana 2/2 weapon is just strong itself. I think that's like a 2.5. And actually it's probably just a 3. I think this is just a 3 on its own. This is a good card. You're fine playing this, and you're probably gonna use it on minions anyway, and you don't miss any damage on the face, so it's like you smork even when you're trading and killing minions. It's really good. Heart Strike, 1-mana 1 blood rune, deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, gain a corpse. So it's like Holy Smite, but you gain a corpse if it kills something. So my judging of the runes, I actually think blood runes are horrible, and I think you should stay away from them. And some of my scores will be reflective of that. So, in a vacuum, this card isn't awful, but I feel that losing out on blood runes, you miss out on a corpse generation of green, and you miss out on the value generation of blue. So I actually don't think... I don't plan on ever... There is only one blood rune card that can bait me in to drafting blood, and it's a 1 rune. So maybe you can get by with 1 blood rune, but we'll see that card much later. But I would probably avoid it. This card, I think, is mediocre. I'll give it 2 stars. Icy Touch, no runes, 1-mana spell, deal 2 damage to a minion and freeze it. Honestly, it's closer to like deal 2 damage to a minion or freeze it, because you're probably killing anything if you're doing it for the damage, or you're just freezing it. So it's flexible, but it doesn't do a whole lot. So I'll give it a 2 out of 5. We're starting out with the weaker cards, and the ones that don't have runes tend to be weaker in general, but almost all the Deathknight cards are okay at worst. So we have Noxious Cadaver, 1-mana 1/2, battle cry, deal 2 damage to an enemy and your hero. So this card, it's pretty good. Dealing 2 damage to your own hero by using your health as a resource. Generally, if you're removing something from the board, isn't that big of a deal. The body itself is pretty worthless, though, outside of the fact that it'll give you a corpse. You can just send it face, so it'll be like a 1 mana 1/2, deal 2 damage to both heroes. So I'll give it a 2.5 since it can be used for removal and as a body. Plagued Grain, 1 mana, 3 Unholy Runes. Gain 4 corpses, shuffle 4 crates into your deck. That when drawn, summon a 2/2 undead. So gaining a 4 corpses is nice, but you don't really want to spend a card that does nothing but gain corpses. Also, it's 3 Unholy Runes. So this is not going to be the card that you want to pick to lock you into only Unholy. So I would avoid. You could consider it if you've already taken a card that put you down this path, but I would never lock myself into 3 Unholy with this card. And I don't think it's... It depends on the cards that you have. I'm gonna say it's 1.5. This is one of the weaker Unholy cards, I think. Rune Forging. 1 mana shadow spell. Draw a weapon, spend a corpse, reduce its cost by 1. There is a decent amount of weapons, so but you're gonna want it depends on how often you can have the weapons, but I'll say that this is a 2 because like 1 mana draw a weapon. If you have a good weapon in your deck, it's going to be like tutoring out the weapon is going to be really valuable, especially if you have one of the really good weapons. So, and then you being able to put it out sooner would be even better. Skeletal Sidekick, 1 mana 1/2 battle cry, give a friendly undead +2 attack. I think this is pretty weak. It's like having an undead on the board probably won't be that hard, but it's like an abusive sergeant, which isn't great. I'll give it a 1.5. Just not spectacular. Imager Frostbreaker, 1 mana 1/2 1 frost rune, battle cry, gain +1 attack for each frost spell in your hand. This card's not great. You're not gonna want frost spells in your starting hand. Most of them are removal or card draw. So if you have them in your starting hand, you're gonna mulligan them away most likely, except for very select few. But yeah, like even if you got a 1 mana, like a 1 mana 2/2 is like your best case scenario, and it'll be pretty hard to have a frost spell in your opening hand, I think. Even though you might have like 3 or 4 or 5 in your deck. This card's just not it. I think this is a 1 out of 5. I know a lot of the cards are pretty weak so far. They will ramp up really fast. Battlefield Necromancer, 2 mana 2/3, 2 Unholy Runes. At the end of your turn, raise a corpse as a 1/2 Risen Footman with Taunt. So, this is one of the cards that, as I was mentioning, you really want. It's really good if you have a corpse already on your turn 2. Because you're able to protect it with a 1/2 Risen Footman with Taunt. A very important note is that Risen minions do not leave a corpse. So that is very important to notice. So, like, when this 1/2 dies, it's not like it feeds itself for infinity. Once that 1/2 dies, if you played this on turn 2, you only had 1 corpse, you won't get, like... If you're out of corpses, it won't do it. And it's not... it's not going for infinity. Still, very powerful card. And it's not awful to be using a corpse to create... Like, a 1/2 with Taunt, yeah, that's a horrible card. Footman, Goldshire Footman. But generating one is pretty valuable. So I'm going to say that this is a 3. Because I think the effect is pretty powerful. Even though it's not like the most efficient use of a corpse, but it's pretty strong early and it's annoying for your opponent. So Blood Tap, 2 mana shadow spell with 2 blood runes. Give all minions in your hand +1/+1. Spend 3 corpses to give them +1/+1 more. I think 2 blood runes is extremely expensive. As in, it's not something you spend, but it's like the opportunity cost of having 2 blood runes, not letting you get access to both Unholy and Frost is devastating. The card itself, I think, is mediocre. It's like a conditioning that's basically just as good as conditioning, I think. But I think you're hurting yourself so much with the 2 blood runes. I'm gonna give it a 1.5. I don't think there's any excuse to have 2 blood runes in the deck. I think I could understand the argument for 1. Bone Digger Geist, 2 mana 2/2, 1 Unholy Rune. Battlecry, spend a corpse to gain +1/+2. So, if you have a corpse on turn 2, this is pretty insane because you get a spider tank for 2 mana. But having a corpse on turn 2 is going to be quite difficult. So this would most likely be a card that you play later in the game. Having a corpse later in the game will be very easy. But the fact that it's unlikely to be able to play it on curve, I think hurts this card a lot, and I think it's a 2.5 out of 5. HI's having a lot of fun. Dark Transformation, 2 mana shadow spell, 1 Unholy. Transform an undead into a 4/5 undead monstrosity with Rush. So one thing I forgot to mention is Deathknight's hero power is summon a 1/1 minion, unholy or undead minion with charge. It dies at the end of your turn. So it is a way for you to generate a corpse for 2 mana. Like if you trade it into a minion, it'll die and give you a corpse. So worst case scenario, this card is a Yeti with Rush. Because you hero power and then you cast this on it. You can also transform opposing undead to essentially silence them and get rid of taunt. So because this card is so versatile and at worst it's a 4/5 with 4 mana 4/5 with Rush, I'm giving it a 3.5, and that might actually be rating it too low. I think this card has a high skill cap and will people will see its usefulness as the meta goes on. Death Chiller, 2 mana 2/3, 2 Frost Runes. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to 2 random enemies. So how it's worded is it can't do 1 damage to the same enemy twice. It can go face, but let's say there's no minions on board, that it'll only do 1 damage each time. So it's like a Flame Waker, but it's only 2 mana 2/3. So I think it's pretty good. Most cards that had an effect like this were always more expensive, but this one is only a 2 mana 2/3, which I really like, and I think you could actually do some pretty sick turns with it. Like because it's more predictable than the other ones, with it being 2 random enemies, that it's closer to like a wild pyromancer than it is a flame waker almost. It's like an in between. So I'm debating between giving it a 3 and a 3.5. I think I'll be conservative and give it a 3. But I think this card is good, and a lot of people are underrating it. Defrost, 2 mana frost spell, 1 frost rune. Draw a card, spend 2 corpses, draw another. So when you're spending mana to draw cards and generate value, usually you're doing this later in the game. And I think it'll be easier to have 2 corpses later in the game. So I think this card is very good. I think it's a 3. 2 mana, draw 2 cards. It could even be better, but it is using 2 corpses. If it wasn't using corpses, I think it would be higher. But I think as is, I think it's a 3 out of 5. Frost Strike, 2 mana, frost spell, 2 frost runes, deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, discover a frost rune card. So what's cool about this is, it's 2 frost runes, but you can discover a 3 frost rune card. This card is probably one of the main reasons that you would want to go into 2 frost runes instead of just going 1. It's very versatile. Just killing a minion, generating a card to replace itself is just so strong. I think this is a 3.5. 3.5. Wait, you know what? No. This is a 4. This card's insane. It might actually be better. I might actually be underrating it at 4. I've just been so used to not having cards this good that I was rating just now. Is this better? It is 2 frost runes. I'm sorry. I've been doing this for like 4 hours straight. I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I think this card is insane. I think it's insane. It's only 2 mana. It's insane. 4.5. Okay. Harbinger of Winter. 2 mana, 2/2. Death Rattle, draw a frost spell. The frost spells are pretty strong, and you can tutor them out as long as you didn't take too many weak ones, like the refresh 2 mana crystals. It's understated. I mean, it's like a loot hoarder. If you have 2 frost runes, you will have frost spells in your deck. So I think this is good, not great. I'll give it a 2.5. It might be a 3, but I think 2.5 is like, it's understated, so it's fine. Hemachurge, I'm not saying that right. 2 mana, 2/3, 2 blood runes. Battle cry, spend a corpse to discover a blood rune card. So in a vacuum, this is a really good card. Discovering a blood rune card is extremely valuable. The issue is it's 2 blood runes, and 1 blood rune at all I feel is too much. 2 is entirely too many. This is the blood rune bait card of the set. I feel like this card is going to have one of the highest win rates in blood rune decks, but blood rune decks will have such a lower win rate, and it is because of this card and baiting people into it. I'm gonna give it 1.5 because it is strong, but it is killing people. Like, this card is going to lower the win rate of so many decks. I think this is actually like the worst Deathknight card because of how much it will ruin decks. Blood is going to be weak, and this card is going to hurt so many people. It is a very good card. If this didn't have runes, it would be like a 4 to 4.5. But it does have runes. It has 2 blood runes, which drops it significantly. Necrotic Mortician. 2 mana, 2/3, 2 unholy runes, battle cry. If a friendly undead died after your last turn, discover an unholy rune card. So, died after your last turn means died either during your opponent's last turn or during your current turn. And I don't think it's that difficult, especially with our hero power, to proc this event. And discovering an unholy rune card is very good. So I think this card is a 4.5. I think it's very good. I just like a 2/3 that discovers. That's amazing. Okay, actually, it's between a 4 and a 4.5. It's hard for me to say which. It's really close to either. Regardless, it's really good, and you're probably taking it over anything else if you see it. Obliterate. 2 mana spell, 1 blood rune. One of the original Deathknight cards from the Lich King. Destroy a minion, your hero takes damage equal to its health. It's very strong removal. It's got a blood rune attached to it, which I think hurts it pretty significantly. I would say it's like a 2.5, but since it has a blood rune attached to it, I'm giving it a 1.5. I don't like blood runes. Plague Strike, 2 mana shadow spell, 1 unholy rune, deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, summon a 2/2 zombie with rush. So you can deal 3 damage to one minion. If it kills it, you can do 2 damage to another, and it generates a corpse when the minion dies. It's just a really strong card. Only 1 unholy rune, so it's great for deck building. I think this is a 3.5 easily. Like, imagine a 2/2 with rush, battle cry, deal 3 damage to a minion. That would be insane. The only thing is, like, it's a little situational that you need a minion that has 3 or less health. That's a pretty easy thing to do. But that's why it's a 3.5 and not like a 4.5 or something. Vampiric Blood. 2 mana, 3 blood runes. Give your hero +5 health, spend 3 corpses to gain 5 more. So, I don't think I've given a 0. Ever. I'll give this a 0.5, since I've never technically given a 0. But, it is notable to say that it's giving your hero +5 health, it's not healing you, so you can use this at full health and go up to 40 health. But, 3 blood runes. Or actually, you know what? -1. This card is awful. It has 3 blood runes, and it's bad for Arena. Don't ever draft this. 3 blood runes means that you don't get access to frost runes, you don't get access to unholy runes. Keep this out of your deck. Holy smokes, it is so bad. Vicious Bloodworm. 2 mana, 3/2 battlecry, give a minion in your hand attack equal to this minion's attack. It has a blood rune which hurts it. I'd say it's like a 2.5 without the blood rune. With the blood rune, it's only 1 blood rune, so I'll only give it a 1.5. It's yeah, it's not good enough to make up for losing access to the other runes. There is one card that might be, though, later, that you will see. It's in the 8 mana. Acolyte of Death. 3 mana, 3/4. Not an unholy, undead, I mean. A 1 frost rune. After a friendly undead dies, draw a card. So, that's pretty good. You'll have, I mean, you'll be building your deck, if you're building your deck based on how I'm recommending with the unholy runes, you'll have access to a lot of small undead minions, which you can then synergize with Acolyte of Death and draw a bunch of cards. It's like, it'll be like Cult Master, is it called? But with fair stats and cheaper. I'll give it a 3. It might be a 3.5, but it is kind of situational. A spider tank is a 2, so it has a full point on that. But it's between 3 and 3.5. I think it's very good. Anti-Magic Shell, a 3 mana shadow spell. 1 Unholy Rune. Give your minions +1/+1. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. The fact that it only gives +1/+1 is pretty weak. And like I honestly think that the original version of this, the 4 mana +2/+2, was much better than this. The can't be targeted isn't as valuable. So it's okay. It doesn't restrict your deck that much to put it in. I'll give it a 2. It might be a little bit better, but I don't think the effect is of can't be targeted by spells or hero powers is going to be that valuable in Arena, because you don't have too many spells or hero powers anyway, or spells anyway. Asphyxiate, 3 mana shadow spell, 2 blood runes, destroy the highest attack enemy minion. So it's like a better deadly. It's like a deadly shot that always hits what you want it to, which is pretty good. And you can like manipulate it a little if you need to. It's a good card, but it has 2 blood runes attached to it. So I would say it's like a 3.5, but each blood rune is gotta be at least -1, which puts it at least to 1.5. So don't draft it. Don't get baited into blood. Think of blood runes as stop signs. Blightfang. 3 mana 3/3/1 Unholy Rune. Battlecry. Infect all enemy minions. When they die, you summon a 2/2 zombie with taunt. So this card is pretty loaded. So you lose a little bit of stats. These zombies will give you corpses. But like even if they only have 1 minion, it's decent. It's not busted because like it's a very delayed thing. It's a very delayed effect. So it's not like, yeah, it's not insane, and it's understated itself. So I think it's a 3, maybe a little higher, but the situations are a little tough. So we'll go with 3. Chill Fallen Baron. If blood runes are going to exist, this card needs to be draftable at will. It's a 3 mana 2/2 undead, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Draw a card. So you'll get a corpse when it dies, and you draw 2 cards. So it's an Arcane Intellect on a stick. Pretty good. Pretty good. It's understated, but I mean, you're drawing 2 cards, so it should be understated. I think that's a 3. This is a good card. Probably, especially if you try to tempt blood. You don't necessarily want a ton of these, but they're good cards. It's a good card. Dark Fallen Neophyte, 3 mana 2/5 undead, 1 blood rune. Battlecry, spend 2 corpses, give all minions in your hand +2 attack. So, I mean, maybe you'll have like 3 to 4 minions in your hand when you play this. If you could have 2 corpses on turn 3, which might be a little tough. +2 attack to minions in your hand isn't that valuable. I might rate this at like a 2.5, but it's got 1 blood rune attached to it, which makes it a 1.5. I think that's fair. I'll rate the cards, and then for each blood rune they have, I'll subtract 1 from their score. Glacial Advance, 3 mana frost spell, 1 frost rune. Deal 4 damage. Your next spell this turn costs 2 less. So this card is pretty good, but it's only pretty good if you cast a second spell, which might be difficult to have 2 spells in your hand, which is the biggest downside of this. It's like you can't send it face, and 3 mana deal 4 damage is a little below average, I would say, nowadays. So let's see. I think I can still rate it a 3. It's still solid. It's just the situationalness of needing another spell that you play this turn to get the full effect of it. But I mean, being able to go face with it is valuable. Like, you know, it's valuable. Graveyard Shift, 3 mana, 1 Unholy Rune. Summon 2 1/1 zombies with Reborn. So that is 4 corpses for 3 mana, which is valuable. Like, I'm just trying to think if there's anything similar to this, but I mean, a 1/1 with Reborn is like 1 mana. Packaging them into 2, like, just having 2 1/1s with Reborn for 3 mana is, I would say, a little below average. But the fact that you're gaining a resource to fuel your other cards, potentially like the 3/4 that draws a card every time an undead minion dies, like, a lot of cards synergize with things dying, gaining corpses. I think that this card helping enable you will be really valuable, and it's only like a little below average on the stat side, so I'm gonna give this a 3. The rune requirement is cheap. Okay. Howling Blast, 3 mana, frost spell, 1 frost rune, deal 3 damage to an enemy and freeze it, deal 1 damage to all other enemies. So it's like a mini swipe, but it only does it to and it's like a mini swipe. Never mind. I was gonna compare it to a different card. So and you freeze the enemy, so you can use this face, it'll do 1 damage to all the other enemies, or you can use that on a minion, it'll still do like 1 damage face. Very good card, versatile, like, spell damage makes this really good. As well, because each of the values get increased. So it's just solid removal. Versatile removal. And 3 mana is a good point for it. So let's see. I'll put it at 3.5. I think this card is really good. You don't have to spend any corpses on it. You can stall. It's a good removal. Meat Grinder, 3 mana, 3/4 Battlecry. Shred a random minion in your deck. Gain 3 corpses. It only costs 1 Unholy Rune. So it's a spider tank that's gaining you 3 corpses that you can then later spend. And it'll die itself and give you a corpse. It's a mech and not an undead. So there is that. But, and yeah, sometimes you're going to grind your legendary minion that you love and is a win condition, but that's pretty irrelevant. You just pretend that you shredded the bottom card of your deck that you were never going to see anyway. Unless the game goes to fatigue, the shredding a random minion is irrelevant. You should always consider it like that. 3 corpses is, like, it doesn't help you immediately, but it is valuable. How valuable is yet to really be seen. I'll give it a 2.5. I think it might be a 3, but I'll just give it a 2.5 for now, because it is good. How good? I'm not sure. Rhymefang Sword, 3 mana, 2/3 weapon, 2 frost runes. After your hero attacks, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 1. I think, especially with 2 frost runes, you can expect to have a spell in your hand a decent amount of the time. Will it be expensive? I don't know. Let's see. 3 mana 2/3 weapon isn't great. I'd rather it be like a 2 mana 2/2 weapon. I think I'll give it a 3. I think it's between 2.5 and 3. I don't think it's higher than that because the stats on a weapon aren't great, and you do need a spell. Yeah, you know what? I'll give it 2.5. You do need a spell in hand for it to like be better than that, so I'll give it a 2.5. Might be low on it. Soulbreaker, 3 mana, 3/2 weapon. After your hero attacks and kills a minion, gain 2 corpses. So, I wonder what I prefer, a 3/2 weapon or a 2/3 weapon. They're kind of similar because like the 3 damage breakpoint is really nice. So, and like doing the finishing blow on a minion is also valuable. So I'd value this probably at like a 2.5, but it has 1 blood rune. So it's a 1.5. A 1.5. Those darn blood runes. Honestly, the cards aren't that high without the blood runes, but Unholy Frenzy, 3 mana, 1 Unholy Rune. Choose an enemy. Minion, your minions attack it, resummon any that die. So, it's a powerful effect, but like, basically, you need minions on board. You need your opponent to have a big minion for your... So you can attack face with your minions, and then you could like cast Unholy Frenzy on this, and then they go in, and then they get resummoned. So if you have anything with Death Rattle, that'll help out a lot. But like the fact your minions can attack twice in a turn, that's super valuable. It's an extremely powerful card. It's just like everything I said, like that needs to be the situation. So getting a lot of value out of this card is going to be extremely difficult. When you do, it'll be extremely powerful. I'm going to give it 3 stars. But it's like I don't think you draft more than 1 of this, but I think it's awesome. It's like I'm giving it 3. If it wasn't so hard to pull off, it would be even higher. Umajur, Deathbringer, 3 mana, 3/3, 2 Unholy Runes. Taunt Death Rattle, spend 3 corpses to summon a 3/3 Risen Umajur with Taunt. So, like I mentioned before, the Risen do not leave corpses. So, you only get 1 corpse from this. And I have no idea if I'm saying Umajur correctly. And I acknowledge that. I mean, assuming you get it is 3 corpses for this effect is expensive. They do both have taunt, which is valuable and makes the cards better. 2 Iron Fur Grizzlies. Let's see. I am curious if you only have 2 corpses when this dies, if it'll resummon. I would assume it does, but I don't know. Like, I'm saying, like, this dying is the 3rd corpse and how that works. I think it's worth it. I'll give this... It is 2 Unholy Runes, which will limit your deck building, but I don't know if 2 Unholy Runes is bad in any way. Basically, when I was looking through the decks that would be good, I thought that the best were either 2 Unholy, 1 Frost, or 2 Frost, 1 Unholy. I think 2 Frost, 1 Unholy might be the best, but I think they're close. And it's based on what you get offered. But I think I give this a 2.5. It could be a 3, but I've been rating everything 3, so I'll rate this one a little bit lower. Death Strike, 4 mana, 1 Blood Rune. Lifesteal, deals 6 damage to a minion. So it's an okay effect. Again, I'd rate this about a 2.5 in value. Maybe 3, but probably 2.5. And then the Blood Rune knocks it down. Man. I'm really hard on these blood cards. Okay, Grave Strength. 4 mana Shadow Spell. 3 Unholy Runes. Give your minions +1 attack. Spend 5 corpses. Give them 3 instead. So that's pretty expensive. Like, giving your minions +3, like, it's Bloodlust for 4 mana. Which isn't bad. I mean, if you're spending 5 corpses to end the game, like, you're spending 5 corpses to end the game. You're not getting the value back necessarily, but yeah. So Bloodlust isn't great in Arena, even at 4 mana. It would be good, but probably not spectacular. It's got 3 Unholy Runes, which I think is a mark against it. So I think the card would be like 2.5 without taking the runes into effect, but because it's 3 Unholy, I think I bring it down to 2. Because like 4 mana give your minions +1 attack is awful. So it's not one of the best cards, but it's alright. Lady Death Whisper, 4 mana, 4/3 legendary, 3 frost runes. Death Rattle, copy all frost spells in your hand. So 3 frost runes hurts it. The effect is powerful. Like, there are really good frost spells. It's a death rattle though, so you have to wait for it to die before you kind of want to use the spells in your hand. And how many frost spells are you going to have in your hand? Like, maybe 2, probably. Which would still be a powerful effect. But I would say that it's like a 3.5, but you gotta knock it down because it's 3 frost runes. So I think I'll give it a 2.5 because it's understated, hard to use, restricting your deck. Malignant Horror, 4 mana, 2/4 undead, reborn. At the end of your turn, spend 5 corpses to summon a copy of this minion. Okay. So this minion is honestly one of the hardest ones to judge. So on its own, you have 5 corpses. You play this at the end of your turn, you'll have another 2/4. So that's 4 corpses you get back if they clear it. The concern, a little bit, is that if they kill, like, you're summoning copies. So they kill the first half and leave 2 ones. And then without reborn. And then this is summoning a copy without reborn and using up all of your corpses potentially. And it doesn't have taunt or anything. So they could use up the rest of your corpses, potentially doing things that you don't want. It is at the end of your turn, so you could just trade it off probably. But yeah, it's just something to consider. But it's a pretty insane card itself. And it's a copy, so I don't even know if there are ways to buff it, but if you do, it'll be pretty insane. And yeah, it basically, you get 4 of the 5 corpses back on its own. So I think it's an insane card. I'll give it a 3.5. It's not quite a win condition, I would say, and there's no deck restriction. So it's just a fun card, I think. I like it. Might of Menethil, 4 mana, 4/2 weapon, 2 frost runes, battle cry, spend up to 3 corpses, spend that many enemy minions. So, I mean, just freeze free like they have 4 minions, you freeze 3 of them, you get to attack the 4th with the weapon or something. It's pretty good. It's almost like Frost Nova attached to a weapon, or 2 weapon. I think it's just good. I think it's a 3.5. Just it's just so much in a card, and it gives you a lot of stuff. I'll lower it to 3 because it does have 2 frost runes, and I like that's what I'm using if it's borderline, is the frost runes, and if there's any deck restriction. Like if it's 1 blue or 1 green, I don't consider that a restriction at all. 2, there's a slight restriction there. So I'll give it a 3. But it's a good card for sure. Nerubian Swarm Guard, 4 mana, 1/3 undead, 1 unholy rune. Taunt, Battlecry, summon 2 copies of this minion. So it's 3 1/3s with taunt. How is that? It's like if you buff it in your hand, it'll see it, but buffing things in your hand is inconsistent at best. Mostly requires blood runes, which are awful. A 1/3 with taunt is not really worth that much. It's worth, yeah, like, it's okay if you spend 1 mana on it, but that's not that good. This card's not great. You get 3 corpses, and it is, like, very defensive. I'll give it a 2.5. It might be a little bit better, and, like, we might find that it's just extremely annoying having to kill these 3 minions, but I think it's too expensive for what it is. Remorseless Winter, 4 mana frost spell, 1 frost rune, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions, draw a card. Consecration in shambles. Like, why play Consecration when you can play Consecration, draw a card? I mean, even if it was enemy minions, it would be bonkers. But it's enemies. You still get that 2 damage face. This card is insane. 4.5. It's amazing. It's a, yeah, 4.5. Disgusting. Repulsive Gargantuan, 4 mana, 3/6, 1 frost rune. Enemy characters can't be healed. That's pretty irrelevant. I mean, given the stats being okay, the effect might be relevant at some point. There is a lot of lifesteal at the moment. You could play this trade into lifesteal minions. I think the stats 4 mana 3. I'll give it a 2.5. I don't think it quite makes it to 3. It might actually be a 2. So yeah, it's nowhere near 3. I think 2.5 is fair because there is a lot of lifesteal that you want to disable. You know what? I think it's a 2. I think it's just a 2. I don't think it's good enough to make it to 2.5. Thurician, 4 mana, 3/3/1 frost rune. Undead, reborn, Battlecry and Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So it gets 3 procs of dealing 2 damage to a random enemy. Can't go face, unfortunately, but like, it's like Silver Moon Guardian, except it does 6 damage to random enemies, which is pretty good. Generates 2 corpses. A lot of value in 1 card. I think it's a 4. Like, it's a little sad that everything's random and it can go face, but really strong card, no deck restriction. Tomb Guardians, 4 mana shadow spell, 2 unholy runes, summon 2/2/2 zombies with taunt, spend 4 corpses to give them reborn. So menacing zombies with taunt. Like 4 mana for 2/2/2s with taunt isn't worth it. But you give them reborn, that's super annoying to get through. That's 4 taunts they have to kill, and you get all of the corpses refunded. So I think that would be a 4. I'll take a 0.5 off for the deck building restriction, I guess. But 3 point. I mean, it's between 3.5 and 4. I think 3.5 is fine. It's just a good card. Good card. Army of the Dead, 5 mana shadow spell, 2 unholy runes, raise up to 5 corpses as 2/2 risen ghouls with rush. Bonkers, as I've noted before, risen ghouls do not leave a corpse when they die. So, this is spending up to 5 corpses, and you don't get them back. So it is very expensive, but it is also a very strong effect. 5, like 10/10 stats with rush, 5 mana. That is a lot. I I think it's a 4.5. It's really good. At 4 to 4.5, they're both good. I'm still debating whether I should take off a 0.5 for the 2. If you do, I would drop to 4. It's really strong. It's expensive though. 5 corpses is expensive. Blood Boil, 5 mana shadow spell, 2 blood runes. Infect all enemy minions at the end of your turns, they take 2 damage. So you're healing a lot and you're slowly dealing damage. It's a very powerful card. You're healing a bunch, but they can like trade off the infected minions. I'd say it's like a 3.5 to 4, but it has 2 blood runes, so I'll give it a 2. Because it is a good card, but it's blood runes. Corpse Bride. 5 mana, 4/4 undead. Battlecry. Spend up to 8 corpses. Summon a risen groom with the stats equal to the amount spent. This is going to be the undead card. Like, this is also partially why blood might be okay. Is because, like, you don't need a payoff with your green cards or blue cards, maybe. When you just have this card that you can just summon an 8/8. Like, with if you have Unholy, you could even maybe summon an 8/8 on turn 5. You can get so many corpses so fast with Unholy. So that would be like a 12, like a 12/12 for 5 mana. That's insane. This card's insane. You're spending a lot of corpses and you only get 1 back. I'm debating between 4 or 4.5. I'll give it a 4.5. Like, no deck building restriction, and it's an amazing card. It's bonkers. Corpse Explosion, 5 mana shadow spell, 2 blood runes. Detonate a corpse. Deal 1 damage to all minions. If any are still alive, repeat this. So, like, let's say there is an 8 health minion on board, and you have 7 corpses, you'll do 1 damage to every minion 7 times, and, like, the 8 health minion will still be alive. It keeps going until everything's dead, or you're out of corpses, essentially. It's a very powerful removal. Yeah, it's just a really powerful AoE, a good use of your corpses. You don't get any back. It is a little expensive. So it's probably like 3.5 to 4, minus 2 for blood runes. Um, So we'll give it a 2. Deathbringer Sourfang. 5 mana, 2 blood runes, taunt, death rattle. Return this to your hand. It costs health instead of mana. This card is another one of the blood rune baiters. I think it's an amazing card. Because like, yeah, you spend 5 health to play it again, but like, you saved your face 5 health most likely, and you have a lot of access to healing and blood. So it's like, yeah, why not? I think this card is really good. I would probably rate it a 4, but it's got 2 blood runes. So I'll give it a 2. But I like this card more than almost a lot of the other blood cards, I will say. I like this card a lot. Possessifier. 5 mana, 3/3, 1 Unholy Rune. Battlecry, summon 2 1/1 fighters with Rush and Reborn. So it's kind of like Derailed Coaster, but you don't need cards in your hand. Generates 5 corpses. It's really good and solid in Arena. Like, you get to decide where the damage goes. You don't need a ton of room on your board to play it. I don't think it's going to be very good though. Or I'm sorry. I read a message in chat and I was responding to it in my head. No, I think this is actually going to be insane. I think this is a 4. Yeah, I think this is a 4. I think this card is really, really good. I got mixed up. I've been doing this for almost 5 hours. So because I literally did the all the cards from the expansion before this one. Okay. Rhyme Sculptor. Summon 5 mana, 3/3 undead, 1 frost rune. Battlecry. Summon 2 2/1 Rhyme Elementals with Death Rattle. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy. It's pretty good. I'm just thinking. So it's like you have 2 volatile. 5 mana is a little bit more than you would want for this, but it's still fair. I'll give it a 3. I think it's very good. Okay, yeah. I was like, oh, they're Rhyme Elementals. Okay. Corrupted Ashbringer, 6 mana, 5/2. 2 blood runes, and lifesteal. Or 6 mana, 5/2 weapon with lifesteal. So I think that's really expensive for what it is. Like, it only has the 2 charges. There was the 7 mana weapon that you could gain lifesteal in Paladin when you corrupted it. But that was 3 charges, which was a big deal, because a lot of the times you would attack base with it. I feel like with this weapon, you're going to want to be attacking minions. Because you do only have the 2 charges. I'm not sure about that, though. I think I'd rate this like a 2.5 to 3. But with the 2 blood runes, definitely lower. I'll give it a 1. I'll be nice and give it a 1. I feel like I'm being a little generous pre Blood Rune removal. Um, like before I'm taking away the points, I feel like I'm being a little generous to the Blood Rune cards. Um, and we'll see. Gnome Muncher, 6 mana, 5/6, taunt lifesteal, 1 Blood Rune. At the end of your turn, attack the lowest health enemy. So this is okay. There's a few Blood Rune cards that almost bait me into thinking that it's pickable. Um, this is one of them. The 8 mana one is the other one that makes me think. I think if you go blood, you still want to go 1/1/1, which might be possible. I don't think you ever go 2 blood runes. But if you can get offered this and the 8 drop a lot, maybe it's possible to go blood runes. Because this card is like a 5/6 taunt with rush, and you basically will heal. Oh, and it can attack face if they don't have any minions down. So it's pretty good. Um, and like with lifesteal on top, this is it. This card is pretty loaded. I, it's between three. It's probably a. This card might actually be a 4, and then I'll lower it to a 3. This card is really good. The blood rune, knocking it down to 3, but it is a good card. Deathknights have some pretty good expensive cards. Marrow Manipulator, 6 mana, 5/5, 3 Frost Runes. Battlecry, spend up to 5 corpses, deal 2 damage to a random enemy for each. It's a powerful effect, dealing 2 damage to random enemies. Pretty expensive. I probably rate this like a 3.5, but with the 3 Frost Runes, I think I knock it down to a 3. It is it's expensive, but it's a good effect to be doing that much damage. I think, it's strong. Also, it could be a nice finisher to kill someone. Overseer Frigidara, Battlecry, draw 2 or 6 mana, 5/6, 2 Frost Runes. Overseer Frigidara. Battlecry, draw 2 spells if they're both frost, deal 2 damage to all enemies. I think getting this off will be quite difficult. And I don't necessarily think it'll be a good thing to have all frost spells in your deck. So even though, like, it's an extremely powerful effect if you draw 2 frost spells. I mean, honestly, drawing 2 spells isn't awful. Like, the card's still probably like a 2.5 on that. Or a 3 on that. And then if they are both frost, dealing 2 damage to all, would make it like a 4. I I mean, if it actually always went off, it would be like a 5. I'm trying to think of how valuable drawing 2 spells is. If you even have 2 spells in your deck, I think you assume you can have 2 spells in your deck. I didn't think through this card in the pre-stream brainstorming. I don't think you'll get the effect off very often. So I think I might go to 3.5. I think 3.5 is fair though, for it. Because it's solid stats for drawing 2 spells. but it's not like a ton of tempo. Okay. Alexandros Mograine. 7 mana, 7/7/3 blood runes for the rest of the game. Deal 3 damage to your opponent at the end of your turns. So you got a War Golem, and then you have like a free Hunter hero power at the end of your turn, which just does put them on the clock and has value. But it's also a War Golem, which is not good. So, let's see. Probably looking at like a 2.5 as a card. -3 for blood runes. So we're looking at a -0.5, which won't even fit on the screen. So I'll just put -0.5. The deck building restriction this will put on your deck will absolutely ruin everything. Thank you, Snake, for the raid. Yeah, I don't think that this is playable. I wouldn't ever draft it. The deck building restriction is monumental and game losing. Frostmourne, 7 mana, 5/3 weapon, death rattle, summon every minion killed by this weapon. So this is the same Frostmourne that you used to know and love. It's a powerful weapon. The concern is, I don't know if you'll have enough life to attack. The biggest thing is, you would run out of life before you get all the attacks off. It's a powerful effect. But, and like making it so you get the kill on each minion, minions having value when you bring them back. It's really expensive. I'm debating between 3 or 3.5. I don't think this card is as insane as people think. Because, like, it wasn't, when you would randomly get an arena, it wasn't like it was consistently game winning. It would be hard to tank all those hits. I'm gonna rate it a 3. Like, tanking 3 minions with your face is not super easy, especially if you have other weapons, maybe. I don't know. It could be better, but I don't think it's amazing. Frostworm's Fury, 7 mana frost spell, 3 frost runes, deal 5 damage, freeze all enemy minions, summon a 5/5 Frostworm. So this is like, I can't even think of what the card is called now, but it's like the 3 mana 3/3 that would grow for every minion it froze. In Shaman, that just Snowfall Guardian. It's like Snowfall Guardian, but it also does 5 damage faced and summon. I mean, yeah, the Snowfall Guardian would usually be a little bit bigger than a 5/5, but you also get to attack with all of your minions on the turn you play it. It's extremely powerful. I would probably rate it like a 4.5, and I'll take off 0.5 for it being 3 frost runes. So I'll make it a 4. It's really powerful. The minion isn't the biggest. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it's a 5 and I move it up to a 4.5. I'll make it a 4.5. I think it's a 5 without... Yeah, this card is awesome. It's Firelands Portal and Frost Nova in one. That's a 5. And the deck building restriction, I'll bring it down to 4.5. Patchwork. 7 mana, 4/6 undead, 1 blood rune. Battle Cry, destroy a random minion in your opponent's hand, deck, and battlefield. So it's a strong effect. It's understated. Extremely strong effect, like destroying a minion in the battlefield and hand. The deck is completely irrelevant. Let's see. It's 7 mana though. So I think I would rate it like a 3.5. And with the blood rune. Because it is understated. Like, to do this with a dragon, it's 6/6 for 5 mana. And yeah, that destroys a card in your hand versus your opponent's, but like the tempo is generally a little bit more valuable than the value. I think value will be huge. I think you'll be able to get a lot of value generated. So I don't know if losing a card is like game losing against like a 4/6 minion. So yeah, I think it's a 3.5 and then I'll lower it to 2.5 because it's a blood. And I think blood is poopy. And now this is the pride of blood. Bone Guard Commander. 8 mana, 8/8, 1 blood rune. Taunt, battle cry. Raise up to 6 corpses as 1/2 footmen with taunt. So you get the turn 8 and you spend all like so to be clear, the Risen Footmen you don't get more corpses from. That doesn't matter. Like you have an 8/8 that is protected by a half dozen of 1/2s. It will be a bitch to get rid of. This card is a 5, and because it's a blood rune, I'm giving it a 4. But this card is insane, and this card is the and that 5/6 lifesteal are the only reason I consider that maybe going 1/1/1 with the runes is valuable. And even like feasible at all. But I still think you avoid them. And you never go over 1 blood rune. But if you get offered this card earlier in your draft, I think you can strongly consider it. This is the only card that's tempting me to test blood. Everything else, I think it's just outclassed by the other 2 runes. But this one right here, this one I like. Absolutely bonkers. Lord Marrowgar. 8 mana, 9/7, 3 unholy runes. So pretty expensive there, and the unholy runes. Battle cry. Raise all of your corpses as 1/1 risen golems with rush. For each that can't fit, give 1 +2/+2. So this one also. This might be go beyond 5. But this is a 5, but it has a deck building restriction. So like it might be worth it though. Like it's like almost as game winning as Sire. You get that like you're just like generating corpse after corpse after corpse. You get up to like 20 corpses. Your board is just massive when you play this. And they have rush so you can value trade. The Risen Golems won't generate more corpses. Important to notice, but this card is the only argument I think there is for going triple green. It's a pretty good argument. It's the only argument though. If you don't, I don't think you ever go triple green if you don't get offered this card. But if you do, I think you do it. I give it 4.5 because of the deck building restriction, but this card is bonkers. It's insane. Soul Stealer, 8 mana, 5/5, 3 blood runes, battle cry, destroy all other minions, gain 1 corpse for each enemy destroyed. Very powerful effect, Twisting Nether on a stick, and you gain corpses for each enemy you destroy. Like, it's a card that's way better when you're behind. So it's a little restrictive on when you play. It's extremely powerful. I'm just thinking on where I would value it. It is extremely expensive, and you can't play it when you're ahead, which hurts it in Arena. And I don't. So I think I would rate it like a 4. Maybe a 3.5. It is extremely powerful, but it's 3 blood runes. I'll rate it a 1.5. It's really good. I'm not giving it the full -3. I don't think you can build a deck with 3 blood runes. I don't think you can generate enough corpses for the payoff. Like, and this is an epic, so you won't get enough of it, I don't think. I do think it's possible to build some successful blood decks. I just think they'll be way less consistent. And I think they should be avoided. The Scourge, 9 mana shadow spell, 2 unholy runes, fill your board with random undead. This is just a 5. It's insane. The random undead are valuable. They're good. They're better than the average minion, especially in Arena, because like almost every undead is going to be a current minion. And there's some that are really expensive and good. Some of them are legendaries and crazy. This card's a 5. Like, 2 unholy isn't really a restriction. It's just insane. Stitched Giant costs 1 less for each corpse you spent this game. 10 mana. I messed up. 10 mana, 8/8 undead. 2 unholy runes. So I don't think this is bad. I think you'll be able to get it to be pretty cheap. It will sit in your hand for a little while if you start with it, but you should be able to find things to spend corpses on. So I think you would I think by like turn 8 maybe you will have been able to spend like 6 corpses or something. So like in the late game, it'll be a pretty cheap card. But the thing is like it'll be hard to like cheat this out too quickly. So it'll be a pile of stats that I think you could get down for like 2 mana in the late game, which will be really good, but it's only in the late game and it's only stats, which will hurt it in my rating. I think it's a 3.5. I think it's really, I think it's really good. I think it'll feel a little bit like Sea Giant, although Sea Giant probably wouldn't be great nowadays, but yeah, it's good. And that's it. I think that, I mean, I was pretty explicit about how I felt. Like, Blood Tap, I didn't just. It's not so much that the Blood Rune cards are bad. I just think what you're losing to get them is not worth the payoff unless it's the Bone Guard Commander. Or the No Muncher. But if you don't get those, I think they're horrible. I think Blood is just horrible. And the other two are just way better. I think Unholy is 100% should be in every deck. I don't think you ever build a deck without Unholy. At least one. When you're building your deck. And I think you should avoid Blood. I could see not getting by without Frost, but still, they have a lot of good cards. I might be biased because I like card draw, so there's that. But that's it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you think I'm crazy for hating on Blood? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, and you can join my Discord and check me out every day, twitch.tv/TeamAmerica. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.